Imagine walking into a room full of people and feeling like every smile hides a secret. Every compliment carries a hidden agenda. And every casual glance could be a judgment you're not ready for. What if I told you that for some people, this isn't a fleeting moment of insecurity, it's their default reality? The world becomes a battlefield where trust feels like a luxury they can't afford. But why? What causes someone to reach a point where they can't trust anyone? Today, we're diving deep into the psychology behind chronic distrust, peeling away the layers to understand its root causes. Let's start with a truth many of us overlook: trust isn't something we're born with. It's learned, built slowly through experiences. When those early experiences are shaky, inconsistent, or painful, our internal foundation for trust never gets a chance to solidify. So, what happens when trust fails to develop? The answer lies in the interplay between childhood experience, cognitive patterns, emotional regulation, and survival instincts. Imagine a child who grows up in an environment where promises are broken, love is conditional, and safety is unpredictable. Maybe a parent who says, "I'll be there," but is never around. Maybe a caregiver who responds with anger instead of comfort. Over time, the child doesn't just notice these patterns, those patterns shape their expectations of the world. They learn that people are unreliable at best and dangerous at worst. This isn't just sadness, it's a learned survival strategy. The developing brain is unbelievably adaptable. When faced with repeated inconsistency, it doesn't sit idle hoping things will change, it adjusts. It says, better to expect deception than get hurt again. This is where distrust takes root. Deep inside, the brain begins to equate safety not with openness, but with hypervigilance. If I don't trust anyone, no one can hurt me. It's not romantic. It's not noble, it's protective. Now let's consider the impact of trauma. Trauma doesn't always mean a dramatic scene from a movie, sometimes it's the quiet pain of neglect, the daily insecurity of not knowing if your needs will be met, or the emotional inconsistency of a caregiver who's loving one moment and distant the next. These experiences prime the brain to be on high alert. The amygdala, the emotional center of the brain, becomes wired to scan for threats constantly. It's like having a smoke alarm that goes off even when someone burns toast. Over time, this heightened alertness becomes the newer normal. For someone who can't trust others, the world feels unpredictable and unsafe. That distrust isn't laziness or weakness, it's a deeply ingrained cognitive filter that says, better to assume the worst than be blindsided again. This filter then influences how a person interprets social situations. A friend's delayed reply isn't just a delay, it's a sign of rejection. A partner's busy schedule isn't just a schedule, it's a deliberate avoidance. Innocent actions become proof of hidden intentions. But this isn't just internal. Distrust affects behavior. When you don't expect others to be reliable, you start testing them, maybe sending multiple messages, maybe pushing for constant reassurance, maybe withdrawing before someone can hurt you first. These behaviors can feel logical from the inside, but from the outside they often look intense, confusing, or overwhelming. And here lies the cruel irony: your fear of betrayal can push people away, inadvertently creating the very loneliness you fear. Another key piece of the puzzle is attachment style. Psychologists have identified different patterns of attachment that form early in life based on our relationships with primary caregivers. Secure attachment, where needs were consistently met, builds a foundation of trust. Insecure attachments, whether anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, create emotional patterns that carry into adulthood. Someone with an anxious attachment may fear abandonment and misinterpret neutral actions as rejection. Someone with an avoidant attachment may distance themselves emotionally to avoid vulnerability. These patterns don't magically disappear, they become the lenses through which relationships are viewed. But here's something crucial: distrusting others is not always irrational in the moment it was learned. For a child in an unsafe environment, expecting danger was adaptive. The problem arises when that adaptive mechanism doesn't recalibrate in safer contexts. The brain gets stuck in survival mode even when survival isn't at stake. This is why someone who grew up in chaos can walk into a stable, loving relationship and still see threats where there are none. So how does this cycle persist? One reason is confirmation bias. When we already expect people to be untrustworthy, we selectively notice behaviors that confirm that belief and ignore evidence to the contrary. If someone doesn't text back immediately, the distrustful mind jumps to "they're abandoning me." If someone is kind, the mind thinks, "what do they want from me?" Even positive interactions are filtered through a lens of suspicion. Over time, this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The mind looks for reasons to not trust and finds them everywhere. Now, let's talk about the emotional cost. Living with distrust is exhausting. It's like running a mental malware scan every minute of the day, constantly scanning for threats, double-checking intentions, analyzing every word and action. Trust is a form of psychological relaxation. Without it, every situation feels like a test. Every relationship feels like a risk. Over time, this constant hypervigilance can lead to anxiety, emotional burnout, and difficulty forming deep connections. But here's the part that often gets misunderstood: people who can't trust aren't choosing mistrust, they're protecting themselves based on past evidence. Their brains are using what it learned to try to keep them safe. The distrust is not the problem, it's the unresolved pain and learned patterns behind it. So what can break this cycle? The first step is awareness. When you recognize that your mistrust comes from past patterns, not current reality, you gain perspective. Instead of asking, "Why don't I trust them?" ask, "When did I learn not to trust?" Understanding the origin of your distrust allows you to treat it as a protective mechanism that overreacts rather than an absolute truth. Another step is building experiences that contradict old patterns. This doesn't mean forcing vulnerability overnight. It means slowly exposing yourself to safe interactions and allowing your brain to update its predictions. Just like a muscle gets stronger with repeated use, trust can grow when the environment proves itself reliable over time. Even small experiences, like consistent, predictable behavior from a friend, can chip away at deep-rooted distrust. Therapy can be incredibly powerful here, especially approaches that focus on cognitive patterns and emotional regulation. A therapist can help you identify the underlying beliefs driving your mistrust and offer tools to reframe them. Ultimately, the psychology of people who can't trust anyone is a story of survival, of brains trying to protect hearts that were hurt before. Their mistrust is rooted in real experiences, learned through repetition and reinforced by the brain's need for safety. But it's not a life sentence. Trust can be rebuilt, not by denying the past, but by acknowledging it and allowing new experiences to rewrite old expectations. So next time you meet someone who struggles to trust, don't dismiss them as cynical or closed off. Understand that their wariness comes from a place of deep learning, a pattern shaped by history, not choice. And know this: trust isn't given all at once, it's earned moment by moment, through reliability, patience, and genuine care. That's how the heart learns to trust.